Steve Summers and Erik Skopil for EDUC.com. Erik, we just finished with the midweek media availability with Coach Altman, and what do you have to say?
Well, first off, California's really given him some trouble since he's been here. He hasn't beaten Cal yet. So that's kind of the focal point this week. And I know they don't make a big deal about one opponent as opposed to another, but the fact that they haven't beaten the Golden Bears and Mike Montgomery certainly weighs with the guys. And you heard that from Jonathan Lloyd a little bit, talking about how this is going to be his last go because they don't go down to play Cal, and he hopes to win.
Well, one of the themes that seemed to be coming out today was about defense, about how they have to play better defense than they did against Colorado, and how Colorado was sort of a learning effort for them. They weren't specific, though, about what about defense they have to do better.
Yeah, and I think the thing you have to realize is you scored 91 points in a basketball game, you should win. And, they scored 91 points against Colorado and lost by 9. That says a lot about the defensive effort there. And Altman said it wasn't necessarily an effort thing, and maybe it's just it's a collaborative effort. They're bringing together so many different guys, so many different backgrounds that sometimes it's difficult and it takes a while for them to gel.
Well, he also talked about the defense, but he was a little more open when he said being a little more physical, which he talked about the post play is going to be something that's going to be a challenge for them. And I just wondered what he meant by that would have been putting a little more bodies on other bodies.
Yeah, and the thing that's difficult for this Oregon team is they don't have an enforcer, I don't think, on this roster. And I think Waverly Austin they hoped going into the season he could play that role, but you've seen his minutes really dwindle. He played about 5 minutes total over the road trip, and Altman was specifically asked about that, and he said he just needs to play better. And we'll see if that's something that develops going forward. With Waverly, I think it's a mental thing, but for that whole front court, yeah, exactly. A lot of them are just kind of face-up perimeter jump shooting guys. There's not a lot of physical presence, not a lot of guys who are going to go out there, body someone up, grab a rebound, maybe throw some elbows, kind of get excited. And so that's something they need to work on, I think. And I'm not sure they have the right components on this team necessarily for that to be the case at all.
Well, every one of the players have 5 fouls to give, and sometimes it's a matter of not being afraid to use those fouls.
And they have the depth is the other thing, is they've got a lot of guys they can play, so it's not like they should be worried. You talked about the fouls. You've got 5 fouls to give. You've got 4 or 5 guys in the front court who can give them. Maybe be a little more aggressive going forward. We'll kind of see, I think, against Cal, who's banged up a little bit, probably only going to be able to play about 6-7 guys they're comfortable with. We'll see if that depth and that front court plays an impact in the game. It'll be interesting to see Thursday night.
Now, for sure, Colorado gave the Ducks a lot of trouble last year. They did have a size advantage in the front court or with the big men.
Yeah, Colorado definitely did, and Josh Scott and even Utah with Dalen Baczynski. Those teams really dominated Oregon down low, and I think that's something that, like I said, I don't know if they have the necessary roster to be able to beat those teams that are going to be able to go up against them, or at least handle those guys and limit that impact. So that's, I think, something that you look forward next year. They signed a couple of really good front court players. This year's team, I don't know if they've got it. So that's the great backcourt, arguably the best backcourt in the conference, one of the best in the country. But front court-wise, I don't know if they've got it this year, and that's going to be a concern going forward along with defense.
Well, there was a new big man that was out there today, Erik Armstead. However, when Coach Altman was asked about him, he was not really forthcoming with information about when he might see some time on the court.
Well, you talk about the enforcer. That could be the guy. I mean, you got a 6'8", 290-pound defensive lineman out there playing basketball who moves pretty well. Maybe that's an impact player. Maybe that's where they go. You never know. And Altman's thing was, we've been practicing 3 months. This is his first week of practice. It's going to take a while. And he even said last year that a guy like Erik, who obviously very athletically gifted, has a background in basketball, but he only commits, the last couple months of the year after football. It's hard for him to get equipped and prepared to play at the same level they want their guys to be able to play.
Now, one of the other things that the coach didn't talk about were the incoming players that were supposed to come in here in winter term and some transfers.
Yeah, obviously yesterday the big news, Brandon Austin, a transfer from Providence, announced he will enroll at the University of Oregon. Dana unable to speak on that, he said, due to the NCAA. And the same thing for Jordan Bell, who we're still waiting for. This is kind of dragging out here. Jordan, of course, supposed to be able to play this fall. Still hasn't enrolled in school to anyone's knowledge, and kind of wonder if he's going to be one of those Lance Brodus guys from football where he signs with the Ducks, everybody's excited about him, and he never ends up making an impact at Oregon, which would be really disappointing because you watch his tape and he's really exciting to watch, very athletic.
Well, this weekend the Ducks have their work cut out for him again.
Absolutely. Cal and Stanford, it's always tough. I mean, California, we talked about, they haven't beaten them under Altman, and Stanford, always a challenge. So it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be important here because they go on the road again for the next 2 weeks. This is their lone homestand before 3 on the road, and then it'd be nice to start off the conference record with some wins, especially at home. You kind of got to split on the road and win at home, and that's hopefully what they do this weekend.
Well, you'll be at Press Row also keeping people updated on Twitter. I'll be in the chat room for those who want to come in and join us for game chat. So we'll look forward to some success here on the home court for the Ducks.
Yeah, and I'd also like to pimp out my new blog, theskopilsystem.com. Go ahead and check it out. I'll have it linked to the board. I plan on giving kind of a statistical analysis every Thursday, so go ahead and check that if you guys have got some time to kill.
Great. So we'll look for your great blog entry, and so until next time, this is Steve Summers with Erik Skopil for educ.com.